way that this has turned out, I did not see this coming at all. I let go of what I had and he gave me better. That bank account that I drained to zero, he put it all back and then some. Now, as far as the job, this is why I had to tell y'all all of that, because I had to get to this part. Hey guys, so for those of you who do not know me, I'm Chatela and I make faith-based content for single moms here on this channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. As you see, this is finally the long-awaited update on my course careers journey. Y'all have been on pause because I have been on pause, and we're gonna get into all of that. I'm gonna give you all of the details. I've had some discovery calls with some of y'all, so I'm gonna incorporate some of the things that y'all have asked me in those calls, the things that I've seen in the comments. First, I'm gonna give like a very brief recap of my experience in the course, and then I'll talk about the application process and where I am now, and then I'll kind of give some final thoughts. All right, y'all. It's been a doozy, okay? I'm not even gonna lie, it's been a lot. I have my initial video. I'll link it again in case you have not watched that one, or in case you want a refresher because it's been a minute. For the course, it was great. It didn't require a whole bunch of like time commitment each week, so I was able to go through it fairly quickly. I might have worked on the course about 3.5 weeks, but within that I had taken about a week off, and so it was very easy for me to just watch the videos if I was at work or if I was driving, doing the dishes, you know, laundry. You know, there were a few videos that you wanted to be actually sitting down because they were walking you through systems, and so you kind of just wanted to be able to familiarize yourself with where certain functions were. But for the most part, this is something that you can listen to and learn on the go. This is something that's come up when I've talked to people in the discovery calls, like, is it a difficult course? There's a difference between going through something and it's just hard, it's complex, and there's all these mundane details, but then there's other type of courses where they're just giving you information that you would not have known otherwise, and that's what course careers is. Now, I will say too, I came in at an interesting time because since I've gone through the course, they have completely revamped it. They have a new instructor leading you through the course, but as far as the information, it's like 90% the same thing. Also, what has changed since I've gone through is now the tests are proctored, and so I don't know how it was before because I still have not taken the test. So they've upped their standards in that way as well, which I think is awesome because it just gives the course more credibility. Even though it was for tech sales, it was such an amazing course on sales in general that I was thinking the whole time that I was going through that I wish that I would have had this course when I first got into real estate, and maybe that could have turned out a little bit more profitable for me. And also to the extent that it taught sales so well that they taught you how to sell yourself. When you're going out into the job market and you're pitching yourself to these companies, you're using those exact same skills that you learned in the course. And so I learned to sell myself so well that I ended up interviewing with certain companies that I would not have gone for otherwise. Okay, so now let's get into the actual application process. Whew, y'all. Okay, so if you remember from the last video, I woke up one day, it was Wednesday. I sent out, I think it was a Wednesday or a Thursday, I sent out a ton of applications. That same day I had secured two interviews, and then I heard back from an additional company that weekend. So that next Monday I had 3 interviews lined up that day. This was at the beginning of January, and when I tell you the majority of January I spent interviewing, it was wild. Even while I was interviewing, I was still sending out applications because at the end of the day, it's a numbers game. And I do, listen, I want to manage your expectations here as well, because I just want you to understand that if you're putting out a bunch of applications, you're gonna get a bunch of no's. Don't want this to come across like you're just gonna wake up and then tomorrow you're just gonna fall into the perfect dream job. Like, there's work required, right? There's effort required to get you there. That doesn't mean that you're not going to get any yeses. It doesn't mean that it's not worth it. It doesn't mean that it's not working. It's just, once again, a numbers game. So I started getting a bunch of no's, and at first I was a little irritated, I was a little bothered by it, but then I just started to reframe it, and I'm like, it's okay, keep going, keep pushing forward. Just a matter of the sheer volume of applications that I was sending out. Now, throughout this entire time, the only thing that I used to apply was LinkedIn. And I would say 95% of the jobs that I was applying to was for tech sales, for a sales development representative, an SDR, or a business development representative, which is a BDR. It's essentially the same thing, just different companies call them different things. I did come across different roles at this time, like account managers, product specialists. Now, and I'll break those down just a little bit, because this has come up in the discovery calls too. You want to think about like the SDR, BDR role as the prospector. You're the person that's going out, you're making the cold contact with these companies that you've researched, you're making sure that they fit your customer profile. There might be some companies that provide you with these leads, but a lot of it is you are reaching out and making this like cold contacts. And then the account managers, they're more so there to close the deal and then to nurture the client relationship for the duration that they are with the company. So that's kind of the two roles that I was applying for. But then the product specialist role that I came across, which I absolutely loved, was it was more become an expert on the product and then just provide email and chat support. That to me was beautiful, because with SDR, BDR, your quota for the majority of the jobs that I saw, you're looking at making between 80 to 100 calls a day, every single day, every day, which is great. And I would have done it, and I was like, this will be my introduction into tech, and then from there I can go anywhere. But because I came across this product specialist role, I was like, well, I don't know, maybe I'll kind of go this way, because then I don't have to like be on the phone all day. Now, as far as the actual process goes, this is where it became a lot. Even though I got a lot of no's because of the sheer volume of applications that I was sending out, I got a good amount of yeses too. So they would do the phone screening, your initial interview, then they would pass you along to either a manager, or you might have a panel interview where it's like a manager and two people who are already in that role. They also might have you do an interview where it's like a mock sales presentation. I had one interview with this company that I was doing. It was a panel interview, and I had 3 30-minute interviews back to back. Now, the final interview is typically you talking with like an exec or kind of like a higher up manager, right, before the final offer letter is given. So being in this process with multiple companies, and it started to be a lot, I'm not even gonna lie. Honestly, like, this is where the real work starts. This is where you start pulling together everything that you've learned in the course about pitching yourself, because you have to think it's becoming very competitive. Look on LinkedIn, it'll tell you, oh, 200 people have already applied for this position. So if you're number 201, well, first of all, they might not honestly even look at your application. I don't know what their thing is. They might hit a certain quota and then just start sending out denials to people. One trick, since I'm going off on this tangent, one trick that I did find though that helped me to land an interview is that I started looking for hybrid roles, because before I was looking for fully remote. So I was like, okay, there's a whole bunch of applicants, let me try to backdoor this. I'm going to apply for hybrid roles in my city with the understanding that it's probably going to be like remote, right? They're probably just trying to cut down on the amount of applicants, and also just trying to find local talent by making it a hybrid role. The one that I specifically applied to that was hybrid, how it was actually broken down was that your training for the first, I think, month or 2 months was in the office, and then after that, if you were hitting your quotas, then it was fully remote. You see what I'm saying? So it's still a remote job. You're not dealing with like the just sheer amount of competition to even get your resume seen. So interview process, I'm going through, I'm talking to all these recruiters, all these things, to the point where I was like, all right, I gotta narrow this down. And it came out to actually one role that was in tech as a product specialist, and then another role that was actually not in tech. I applied to it really on accident. It was an account exec role, but it was in a market research firm, which I honestly would have loved. The pay was the same. Both were fully remote. So for me, it came down to those two, and I actually started pulling out of other interviews. People would reach out about phone screenings, and I would either like cancel ones that I had already scheduled, or I would not get back to them about doing a phone screening. One that I told you about, the hybrid role, I was supposed to talk to the final exec or whatever, and I just emailed them that I wanted to rescind my application. There were just quite a few because it just came down, for me, it came down to these two roles. Okay, so this is where the interesting part started. I'm waiting, and it's so interesting because this ties so much into my testimony that it's absolutely crazy. So if you have not watched, you can go back and you can watch my video that I made a little over a year ago about quitting my job and stepping out on faith and just kind of waiting to see what God did. This moment is such a full circle moment from there that it really blows my mind. At that time, I felt like I needed to kill the idol of money, and not in the sense that I worshipped it or I was money hungry or anything like that. However, my security was tied up in my bank account. For me, and in my walk and what I felt led to do, I was like, well, I feel like I need to leave my job, and I'm stepping out here on faith, and whatever happens, happen. Like, Lord, is in your hands, right? So I was like, I'm not gonna move until you move. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not gonna go get another job. I'm just waiting on you, God, right? So I waited, and my bank account drained and drained and drained, and I was like, but it's okay, God, it's all right, because I'm still trusting you, right? Because at one point I had heard it dropped in my spirit, like, okay, yeah, you've been saying you trust me, you trust me, you trust me. Would you trust me if you didn't have your savings? And I was like, ooh, oh, that's a good question, Lord. I'm in this process, and on my bank account, because I have bills, right? I still have rent comes every month. So the bank account is draining, and I'm like, no, God, I said I gave it to you. I'm not gonna pick this back up and take it into my hands. I was like, if I gotta lose my apartment, I'm serious, because I'm an all or nothing kind of girl. So when I am in it, I'm in it, and I don't play no games. So I was like, I'm for real, God, I'll lose this whole apartment. And I had to move. So I left my job, ended up draining my bank account legitimately to nothing. Nothing. Savings, no nothing, no money coming in, nothing. Lost my apartment, had to move back in with my dad. And I got there and I was like, whew, okay. All right, well, okay, Lord. But the interesting thing is, I would do it all over again, because when I say it has radically changed my relationship with money, it has. I put that on the altar and I said, God, kill it. And he did. In that experience, it did. And it showed me that even during that time, I never went without. No bill was ever missed. Like, I was still good. God still provided for me during that time. So what ends up happening is I'm in the process with the marketing, like the market research firm, and then also the product specialist role. Right, if I can get an offer letter, then I can go and I can show that, because you know, you got to make 3 times the rent and all this stuff, right? It's very difficult to do when you're by yourself. And 2, I didn't want to depend on anyone else to be like, oh, well, can you co-sign or whatever? Because I'm like, no, God, I want you to do it. If I go and do that, then I can give somebody else the credit, and I don't want to give nobody else the credit but you. I'm waiting on the offer letter. If one of these jobs just come through, like, I can go and I can finally get us a new home. Both of them kept kind of extending the process. The one with the marketing agency, I was in the early stages of the application, so I had to wait. And so I'm waiting and waiting and waiting, and then I'm also waiting and waiting and waiting for this other job too. So I ended up not getting the one with the market research firm. And when I say I was crushed, I was crushed. I was absolutely devastated, because honest to goodness, I got both offers. I was gonna take that one even though it wasn't in tech, because I didn't want to take the tech job just to say, oh yeah, I did course careers and then now I'm in tech and here's my story. And it's not about that for me. For me, it's what is in alignment, what I am trying to do. and what is gonna make me happy, what is gonna make me feel like I'm actually doing something that is fulfilling for me and I'm not just working another job. And so that would have been it for me. Didn't get it. So I was like, all right, God, okay, that's fine, that's fine. I will just go into tech, and you know, I'll just wait on this product specialist role. They came back and they were like, now mind you, I asked them at the end of, on my final interview, I was like, well, how many people are you hiring for this role? And they were like 2, potentially 3. So I was like, oh, wonderful. Well, they get back to me and they were like, oh, well, we gave the first offer letter out, but we have to get budget approval in order to give the second one. So can you just stay warm for us? What? First of all, I was offended. And then number 2, I'm waiting. I am literally like I'm apartment shopping. I already know which one I want. I'm like, I'm this close. Like, this is not happening. But what did I say? Yes, sure, of course. All right, that's fine. Right? They were like, we don't know when it's gonna happen though. So that's where the whole limbo thing came. I talked to them about a week later and they were like, hey, look, like, we really want you, but this process could take up to a month because they have to like get the VPs involved, and then their finance department and all these people. In my mind, I'm like, well, why didn't y'all do that? You already said that you were gonna hire 2 to 3 people. Like, why haven't y'all already got the budget approved? But I was like, okay, that's fine, I'll wait. So, but I'm really frustrated because really I just want to be able to move out. What ends up happening is God is like, are you trusting more in me? Are you trusting in an offer letter? Sometimes he just hits me with like these little questions that he already knows the answer to, but it just rattles up everything. Now, this is what I was led to do in this moment, okay? I'm not suggesting being irresponsible at all. I knew how much I had been praying for this new home, right? I had already picked it out. Me and my kids were talking about it. I mean, I was already planning like my new route to work and all these things. And it had gotten to the point where I was trusting so much. I was depending so much. I was like, I just need an offer letter because that's gonna make everything okay. And I was trusting in that more than I was trusting God. So I said, you know what? Fine, I've been looking at this thing. I look at it like legitimately every single day. I'm monitoring it, monitoring the rent price, all these things. I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and apply. The apartment that I have been looking at for a month solid, every day was gone. The day that I went to apply, it was gone. I was just beside myself. None of this is working out. That's fine. I had to recuperate. The next day I come back, I'm going to just find another unit. That was perfect. I love how it was situated. It's fine. I'll just find another one. I found another one and within the same complex, and I applied and I was like, okay, Lord, like, I mean, worst case scenario, I just lose out on my deposit money, okay? So I'm still thinking though that maybe at some point I'm gonna get this offer letter to be able to show. Didn't happen. Now I'm in a position of trying to like piece together like all of these different components of my income to like show them. Very long story short, because we're gonna start wrapping this up here. Well, first I gotta tell you this part. So where I live, there's gates to come into the building. So the day that I applied, I wanted to come and tour the apartment, and the lady was like, oh, I'm too busy. So I was like, all right, it's fine. I'll just go and I'll look at it from the outside. So I came around with my kids, and as I'm coming around the corner, I see that the gate is open. So I was like, well, we can just go in and like, you know, look at the route that we would take to like get there, because in certain buildings there's elevators and all these things. So I was like, well, let me just go ahead and see. We come upstairs and we're looking around, and I'm leaving, and I reach for the handle on the door just to tell them like, oh, we can't go in because it's locked. The unit was open. The gate, mind you, this is a magnetized like gate. It's shut all the time, and it locks. The gate doesn't stay open more than like 3 seconds, right? So the fact that when we got there, it was standing open, and then the apartment was unlocked. I said, this is mine. God is allowing me to come up in here because it is mine, okay? So we run in here real quick and we take this video, and I'm like, oh, it's perfect. Like the way that it just worked, I'm not gonna try to make this too long because I know this is supposed to be about course careers, but if you come to this channel, you're gonna get testimony, okay? So what ends up happening, I get the apartment. On top of getting it, they were like, oh, well, we're just gonna knock like $400 off your rent. I said, what, y'all do that? I'm telling you this because I'm saying full circle. When I left my job, when I left my last job, I drained my bank account and, you know, my savings. I lost my apartment, all that, right? God, he gave me a better apartment, better location, right? Like the amenities, the neighborhood, like it is absolutely beautiful over here. I'm right downtown. It is just everything, right? Better than what I had before. I let go of what I had and he gave me better. That bank account that I drained to zero, he put it all back and then some. Now, as far as the job, this is why I had to tell y'all all of that, because I had to get to this part. As far as where I am now, they were supposed to have the final meeting about the for like the budget approval process like last week, and then she was gonna get back to me. Well, the exact same day that they were supposed to have that last meeting, this doctor that I have been working with on and off since 2019 reached out to me and was like, I'm ready for you to come full-time into my practice. Let me tell you, this is something that I prayed about in 2019, March of 2019. Here we are, March of 2023, in the prayer, I am walking in the fullness. So at that time, I went back. I was still flying with Delta. I knew I was gonna have to, you know, end up leaving. I went back to get certified as a health coach, and my prayer was to be able to work full-time. 4 years later, to the month, right? March of 2019, now we're in March of 2023. Reaches out to me, and so now I am working full-time in her practice as a health coach. This is something that I have been wanting to do for ever. She gives me so much autonomy. She tells me, no, this is your business within my business. So now I can focus fully on my business, on like health and wellness and all these things that I have been trying to do on the side for such a long time. Now I can do it 100% of the time, like full-time entrepreneurship. Like it's wild the way that this has all worked out. And through I recently had this kind of revelation. I was reading in Exodus when the Israelites, they were at the Red Sea, and they're thinking, okay, either we forge forward and we just drowned in the sea, or we get attacked and killed by these Egyptians that are pursuing us. Like, these are our options right here. But then God, the way that he works, he comes in with like option C, and he's like, no, actually, I'm gonna just part the Red Sea and you can just walk through on dry land. That is the way that God works. We think that it's either one or two, and God is like, I got something for you that you didn't even think you could. He tells us that he can give us exceedingly abundantly more than we could ever ask, think, or imagine, right? I could not have asked, thought, or imagined that I would not only be here, but I came into this year with $100 to my name. I came into 2023 with $100 to my name. And then it has just popped off since then. Okay, so I could not have thought or imagined I would be here in the perfect place for me and my children, paying way less, I mean way less than I anticipated paying to even be here. And this is the season when God was like, you can go ahead and step into full-time entrepreneurship too. So I know that you were making that move and you thought you were about to go into tech. I got something better for you. I'm about to answer this prayer that you've been praying for a very long time. So that is where I am now. And that is the conclusion to this story. No, it's not even the conclusion, it's the beginning. It's just so interesting how I was in a place for such a long time where it was like, God, I am afraid. I am so fearful to do anything if I did not hear clearly. If you did not crack the sky and come down and tell me face to face that I'm supposed to do this, then I'm not doing it. I was in that place for such a long time. But we have to remember, continue to move forward, make plans, but this is where the distinction comes in. Make plans, but then continually submit them to him. Say, okay, God, you know what, I'm going to pivot, and I'm going to pivot into tech, and it seems like this is how this could work out, and I'm going to start making efforts to go this direction. However, I submit it to you, and if at any point you tell me, no, we're going to make a left, or no, this is something else that you're going to do, then I will drop it. That's the key. is moving forward, but continually submitting to God and having a heart posture of, at any given time, if you give me another direction, I will follow that. And I will drop my plans in a second. And so that's what happened for me in trying to figure out, okay, something got to shake. But God, like my heart posture is like, I will drop this at any time. You give me the word, and I'm gonna be obedient to your word. And that's what happened. Where I don't know, at the exact day when they were having the final meeting about the budget approval is the same day that I received an answer to a prayer that I had prayed 4 years ago. And I hope that you can see through my testimony, when you really offer things to God and you really change your heart posture to, you know what, God, if I have put anything over you, then I am going to do the work to tear it down. I am going to do the work to kill it. When you do that, like, listen, the way that he will turn things around for you will blow your mind. And I guess final thoughts on actual course careers, all the things that I said before, still believe it. 100% glad that I went through the course and would do it again. Just because I did not end up going into tech, that was just as a direct result of the way that God kind of was working things out in the background for me. However, that had nothing to do with the course. I had the opportunity, like I said, I was turning down and pulling out of processes. If I wanted to, I could still continue applying. However, this is a desire of my heart, like a true area where I feel like I'm being called. So that's the direction I'm going to take, because at the end of the day, like, it's purpose over everything, right? So I say that to say, if you want to do course careers, I still very much encourage you to do so. You're gonna get out of it more than what you probably thought that you would get out of it. Then even too, if you say, okay, well, but really tech sales is not for me. Okay, cool. They have an IT course. They have a digital marketing course, which actually I'm about to take the digital marketing course. That's how much I believe in course careers as a whole. Because they gave me so much value with the tech sales course, I know that I'm going to get value from that course, so I'm going to be doing that as well. So look forward to a review on that. I know that some of you in our calls have mentioned that, and I didn't even know that that was a thing until y'all told me about it. So thank you. But I think that was the bulk of what I wanted to share with y'all. I'm sorry that you were kind of in limbo. Some of y'all have legitimately been waiting like a month or two. I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone who has subscribed since then. Welcome. And I hope that this was helpful. If you stuck to this point, then you are the real MVP. If you have any questions, and I'll see y'all soon.